I want you to stop for a moment and look inside yourself. Perhaps everything is so noisy around you that you don't even remember the last time you listened to what beats inside your chest. I want you to take a deep breath and start reflecting on what happens when night falls and your eyes close. Think about those strange scenes, those symbols that appear without warning, and the intriguing possibility that they might be more than just fleeting images. Have you ever considered that God might be communicating with you during these quiet moments? Have you thought that dreams might carry messages that can't be explained by mere reason? I want to guide you on a journey that many ignore. The real chance that God is using your dreams to speak to your heart in a special way. I want your mind to open to this possibility and for you to allow each word to penetrate beyond intellect, reaching the fibers of your being. Instead of dismissing your nights as simple rest, how about viewing them as sacred territories where the divine manifests? When I talk about dreaming, I'm not referring to something trivial or irrelevant. There is a depth that few recognize, and it's likely that you felt this before. You know when you get out of bed with that feeling that something happened during your sleep, but you can't quite define what it was, as if something much greater is trying to get your attention. Don't wish to understand everything immediately, because sometimes the answers are revealed little by little. But there is one point I want to emphasize. I want you to comment on this video with some kind of statement of faith. Do it now. Leave your record of conviction. Declare in the comments something like, "I believe," "I trust in God," "God speaks to me," or whatever is pulsing within your heart. Your declaration of faith is a powerful step that will not only strengthen yourself, but also create a genuine connection with everyone who reads it. This simple action carries a force that transcends the barriers of the ordinary and enters the realm of the spiritual. So, comment something of faith and keep your heart open, because there is much to be discovered. The dawn of understanding. Dreams as a divine touch. There are moments when the mind, tired from the day's obligations and noises, becomes more susceptible to the truths that hide between the lines of existence. When the head finds rest on the pillow, time takes on another rhythm, and the solid certainties of before begin to dissolve. What seemed distant gains, colors, voices, and sensations that speak directly to the heart. It is in this gap that something greater usually manifests, almost without fanfare. It's not a matter of coincidence or random luck. There is a purpose in the dream that resonates deeply and leaves signs that should not be ignored. Many times you wake up with a restless heart, unable to find a clear explanation. The images, the words, the scene that presented itself while you slept seem to scream for attention. Even so, the routine soon tramples and throws everything under the carpet of the mind. You get up, put on your clothes, face the new day, but that feeling doesn't go away so easily. There is a presence, an echo, a kind of certainty that God touched something inside you and left a message disguised as a dream. Why treat it as worthless? Maybe you fear the opinion of those who do not believe in these manifestations, or prefer to keep everything under a veil of skepticism so as not to feel too vulnerable. But stop and reflect. If God is trying to speak, does it make sense to turn your back? Sacred texts recount prophetic dreams, guidance received during sleep, warnings that saved lives. This is not a myth that belongs only to ancient pages. Even today, people report receiving instructions capable of changing directions and illuminating paths. The most challenging part is identifying these subtle codes, understanding what each detail might mean. The answer does not always appear in an obvious way. Sometimes you wake up with a phrase echoing in your head. At other times, a striking image is recorded, insisting on not fading away. In these moments, reason tries to find logical explanations, but the heart feels that there is something beyond that, something that stirs the deeper layers of faith. Ignoring these signs is like refusing a special invitation. It's normal for doubts to arise. You may question the legitimacy of each sign. Am I just being impressionable? Are my fears being projected? This questioning is common, but should not nullify you. You need to develop the sensitivity to interpret, to mature the connection with the divine, to realize that he does not choose only sacred places or solemn situations to speak. He manifests when he wants, where he wants, and often it is in the simplicity of a dream that his voice becomes unmistakable. There are those who spend years without opening up to this possibility. Therefore, many signs are archived as fertile imagination and end up forgotten. But if you have ever felt deep down that certainty that something greater was acting while you slept, why ignore it? Learn to identify these flashes. Take a few minutes upon waking to reflect. Write down your impressions in a notebook. Set aside a moment of silence to ask God for discernment. Do not treat as trivial what could be the beginning of a great change. And now I ask you to do something simple, yet of great value. Leave a statement of faith in the comments. Type, for example, "I open myself to what God wants to reveal to me," or "I feel the divine presence acting while I rest." Each comment is not just a mechanical act, it is a bond that you strengthen with what you believe in. By writing your declaration, you give a voice to your faith and share it with all who read it. This creates a sense of companionship and promotes an environment where even those who feel weakened are encouraged to persist. When you record your statement of faith, something moves, not just within you, but in those who observe as well. There is a real exchange of energy, an atmosphere that drives each of us to seek deeper. After all, we are all connected, and what you express can be the spark that reignites someone else's flame. Never underestimate the power of this action. Be careful with dreams that seem insignificant. Even the seemingly loose details can contain hidden truths. An object, a face, a color, or even a sudden feeling of peace. All these can carry a revelation. Sometimes you will only understand the meaning days later when another sign appears in the waking world. But you need to be attentive. Don't ignore the signs that God sends. Value every clue that surfaces. Take a few moments to reflect on what you experienced while you were sleeping. Think about how you felt when you woke up. Is there something that shone differently? Is there a memory that stayed in your mind throughout the day? Do not dismiss this, and above all, do not forget to share your faith statement in the comments section. It opens doors, establishes connections, and motivates people to also hear the subtle call that God makes. If you still feel insecure, or think that your experiences might seem strange to others, remember that spirituality often works in unusual ways. You are not alone in this quest. Others have seen and heard things that took them out of the ordinary. It is a journey that involves surrender, courage, and sensitivity. Do not reject the voice that echoes in the silence of the pillow. Now make your comment with a firm affirmation, reinforcing your connection with this spiritual dimension. Declare something like, "I trust in God's plans, even without understanding everything now," or "My faith is renewed as I rest." These comments are seeds that cultivate hope, transmit strength, and generate unity. Each person who reads your text can be inspired to live their own faith with more courage. In the silence of the night, God speaks without fanfare. He prefers the subtlety of whispers, the gentle touch on the heart, the ideas that awaken meaning. It is up to you to decide whether you will embrace it or not. Do not be indifferent to this call. Embrace this opportunity to hear the divine, learn from the messages that emerge, and find in each dream a reason to strengthen trust in what is not seen, but felt undeniably. Right now in the comments, "I feel the divine presence." Do so with the conviction that each word carries weight. Your participation is not a mere gesture. It is a step to reinforce a commitment to yourself and to the one who inspires the deepest dreams. After all, when the light goes out and the world quiets down, the voice that presents itself is not seeking audiences. It touches the heart of those willing to listen. Why would God speak in dreams? There are moments that surprise the soul without asking permission. You wake up and realize that something occurred in the silence of the night. Perhaps your heart remains restless, or a different calm takes over everything. It's not common, it's not simple, but there's a subtle touch that awakens an almost inexplicable certainty. In these moments, do not try to mask what you feel. Recognize that there may be a message echoing within you. Have you ever thought about how many signs you've ignored throughout your life? Many people live so immersed in the race that they practically do not notice when something greater approaches. It is common to rationalize, to say that it is just another confusing dream. But this does not nullify the intensity that was recorded. Some dreams stand out for the way they mark us, for the depth of sensations they leave. Do not limit yourself to discarding them just because logic cannot explain them. Some, upon waking, doubt whether they should take these impressions seriously. They are afraid of appearing too mystical or of imagining things. But if there is within you that conviction that something significant was communicated, do not be ashamed. The divine voice does not usually shout. It whispers, touches the heart, and reveals a truth that cannot always be immediately translated with clarity. You feel the effect before understanding the causes. If at some point you began to realize that dreams might be deeper than you thought, it's time to take a stand. Don't dismiss the recurring clues, the symbols that appear, the voice that whispers during rest. It is better to pay attention than to ignore. There are times when the invisible calls us, requiring the courage to face dimensions that go beyond our limited understanding. Perhaps you doubt the authenticity of certain signs. This is normal. However, do not let this become a barrier that prevents you from listening. If it is merely a coincidence, time will tell. But if it is a real message, you don't want to miss it. Making room for the possibility is a step of faith. And faith is not synonymous with naivety. It is the willingness to embrace what reason alone cannot decipher. Now I ask you to leave the phrase, "I accept the voice of God in my dreams," in the comments. When you do this, something inside you leaps. It is a small gesture that in reality carries symbolic strength. You make yourself available, openly declaring that you do not want to remain deaf to the revelations that might be coming from a higher sphere. Do not let yourself be intimidated by the disbelief of others. Everyone has their moment of awakening. But if you feel you are ready, if something calls your heart, if the dream you had was insistent, do not underestimate what your soul is crying out to hear. By writing this statement, you seal a commitment to yourself, reaffirm your attitude of seeking, and open up space for even deeper experiences. So, record it now. I accept the voice of God in my dreams. Leave this sign of openness and courage. Do not underestimate the power in this act. It creates a connection, strengthens your confidence, and inspires those who read it. This moment is not just any moment. It could mark the beginning of something new. The power of recurring dreams. There are nights when everything repeats itself, as if the same plot comes knocking on the door of your sleeping thoughts. You wake up with the memory of familiar scenes, feeling that something insists on catching your attention. It is not mere whim, it is not an irrelevant detail. Perhaps it is God's way of reaffirming a message that cannot be ignored. When the same scenario reappears, something calls for urgency, almost like an invitation to wake up and see what is being placed before you. These repetitions can be bothersome. You may be intrigued, wondering why certain symbols appear, why certain people show up, why a specific environment insists on being present. Instead of dismissing everything as a coincidence, open yourself to the possibility that it is a warning, a push, or even a comfort hug. At this point, it is not about seeking approval from those who do not believe in signs. It is important to realize that something is constantly confronting you, demanding a deeper response. It is common to doubt. You may find it an exaggeration to attribute this phenomenon to something divine. However, if you feel there's a different uneasiness, if something inside you vibrates when you remember each detail, isn't that already enough proof that it's not a common dream? Perhaps God is speaking directly to your innermost self, trying to illuminate a decision, warn about an imminent mistake, or reaffirm hope in a moment of discouragement. Do not underestimate this method of communication. The distractions of the day can be so many that we end up deaf to the whispers of a greater reality. At night, when the pace slows down, the heart becomes more receptive. In that silent gap, repeated dreams emerge that insist on being noticed. Do not run away from them. Allow yourself to examine them. Ask yourself what might be needing immediate attention. Now, act. Leave in the comments the phrase, "I open myself to divine signs." Simple, but decisive. This statement demonstrates your willingness to embrace what is so often repeated in the stillness of the night. You are not passively waiting. You choose to listen, choose to reflect, choose to value what resonates strongly within you. This phrase may seem small in the face of the mystery of a recurring dream, but it carries a profound weight. When you write it, you signal that you are ready for changes, ready to no longer ignore those scenes that return without warning. So, take this step now. Write it. Show that you do not wish to remain in uncertainty. Demonstrate with your words that you accept the possibility of God insisting through these dreams. By acting in this way, you pave the way for a new understanding, strengthen the bond with what is sacred, and invite others to do the same. The peace that emerges in the midst of a dream. There are nights when everything around you seems noisy, confusing, and yet you manage to sleep with an inexplicable confidence. It is not the result of distraction or escape from reality. It is the feeling that a greater force envelops you and allows you to rest without fear. That peace which escapes common definitions, invades the heart and dispels the anxiety that would normally chase you. You wake up and realize that even if the circumstances seem turbulent, something within you is firm. It is not naivety. It is the manifestation of divine care that shows itself in a silent yet profound way. In moments like these, you recall how the weight of the world almost made you collapse. Maybe it was a financial problem, a breakup in a relationship, a nameless anguish. You looked for various ways out, tried to find answers at every corner, but nothing satisfied the internal thirst for tranquility. Suddenly, there came a night when you dreamed of something so simple and at the same time so intense. It could be the image of a serene place, a word that echoed within your soul, or just a presence that embraced you without saying anything. And when you opened your eyes, you felt light. This peace is not a product of a method or technique. It does not arise from impeccable reasoning, nor does it depend on elaborate arguments. It is almost a gift that arrives when the heart no longer knows what to do. Certain dreams are like that. They carry a special touch, almost imperceptible, but which completely changes the way you relate to your pains. It's as if something beyond your comprehension said, "Trust, you are not alone." Maybe you have already lived through a crisis so big that you even doubted the existence of something greater. Fatigue takes over, and faith, for a period, may waver. However, there comes that night when, without asking permission, a calmness envelops you in an unexpected way. You wake up and feel that you have been touched. It is more than mere rest. It is a confirmation that, even in storms, there is an invisible hand that sustains you. In such situations, do not cling to logical explanations. Allow yourself to experience this serenity. Let it invade every part of your being. It is not necessary to understand all the whys to embrace something so precious. Often God reveals himself in the details that the rush of the day does not let you notice, and when you finally stop and sleep, he finds space to leave the mark of his presence. Remember now that tumultuous phase when everything seemed colorless. If you managed to get through that period and woke up one day with a rested soul, even without any apparent reason, it is not by chance. There is a divine force that acts gently and profoundly, even when you don't know how to ask. Do not ignore that silent voice that brings comfort so surprisingly. Write, right now, the phrase, "I receive peace from above." Record this affirmation. When you comment, you are not uttering empty words. You are confirming something you feel, something you perceive when everything seems to be falling apart. But inside you, there's an unshakable fortress. Every time someone reads this phrase, confidence is reinforced, an inspiration to look within and realize that peace does not depend on external circumstances. This act of writing, of publicly declaring, strengthens the bond with that which sustains you. You are not alone. There are others who also seek this peace and who, upon seeing your declaration, will be motivated to open up more. Do not underestimate the value of this gesture. Sometimes a simple comment can deeply touch hearts that feel abandoned in the midst of chaos. Leave this mark. I receive peace from above. Embrace this truth and allow it to nourish not only your faith, but also those who cross your path. You don't need grand explanations or elaborate speeches. Just recognize that, amidst the turmoil, there is a care that never fails. When you write this phrase, something inside you aligns with this reality, and others begin to realize they are not alone. It brings signs in dreams. There are nights when you wake up startled, heart racing, breathing irregularly. It wasn't a serene dream. It was an experience that left marks, caused chills, and remains vivid in your memory even after you get out of bed. At other times, you try to ignore this discomfort, pretend that nothing significant happened, but the mind insists on revisiting every detail. The image, the word, the dream environment seem to carry a weight that does not fade easily. This feeling can be a warning that should not be dismissed. There are dreams that arrive without warning, bringing disturbing scenes. They do not just seek to torment your nights. They may be signs that require a stance. It is as if God is communicating something serious, something you did not want to see in a conscious way. Even though it is not pleasant, this type of dream can point to a delayed decision, an action that is about to generate bad consequences, or even reveal a hidden threat in everyday life. In such moments, closing your eyes to the message is practically inviting the problem to worsen. If you have already lived this type of experience, you know how difficult it is to resume your routine the next day. It seems that something inside you has changed. Each striking scene from the dream reappears in your thoughts, almost like a continuous warning asking for resolution. The soul is not at peace until it understands or faces what was shown. This discomfort is not the work of chance. Often it is the divine voice trying to protect you, trying to show you that it is time to stop postponing what needs to be resolved. Maybe you have been warned about a situation that could cause irreversible damage. Maybe the dream served to shed light on a behavior that is slowly corroding your life. Or perhaps it was a call to reevaluate relationships that don't make sense, or to adjust something that has been neglected. In any of these scenarios, the message is clear. Do not hide from what you saw. If your heart remains restless, it's time to act. Some prefer to put these dreams in the drawer of forgetfulness. They fear appearing exaggerated or superstitious. However, remember that God does not speak only in serene settings or tender words. Sometimes the warning comes in harsh images that shake the soul and leave you no choice but to reflect. It's not enough to wake up, shrug it off, and move on. If the feeling persists, if the content returns, it is likely that there is a greater purpose behind these nocturnal fragments. Resist the temptation to seek empty interpretations or to discredit the experience just to escape discomfort. Seek understanding. Open your heart to what might be being revealed. Pray, meditate, seek discernment. If necessary, talk with someone you trust. The important thing is not to let this type of dream, so loaded with urgency, be silenced without extracting the necessary learning from it. Now take a step that seems simple, but carries enormous value. Comment the phrase, "I am attentive to God's alerts." Make it clear that you do not want to live in dormancy, that you do not wish to ignore what touches your consciousness so deeply. This public act is more than a comment thrown on the screen. It is a commitment to attention, a way of declaring that you do not want to remain oblivious to the messages that can save your path from bad decisions or prepare your heart for future challenges. Register now. I am attentive to God's alerts. Do it firmly. This gesture is not small. By writing it down, you confirm that you are willing to come out of inertia, to analyze what appears in your dreams, to see beyond the obvious. Many who read your statement will feel encouraged to recognize their own warning dreams and perhaps make the decisions they have been postponing for a long time. This creates unity, reinforces faith, and ignites the hope that even in the darkest scenarios, there is a light guiding those who choose not to close their eyes. Clear words in the silence of sleep. Sometimes you close your eyes and dive into a scenario that does not seem random. There is no confusion, no whirlwind of meaningless images. What arises is something intense, with voices that resonate so strongly that you can almost touch them. They do not disappear in the first moments of wakefulness, nor do they fade with the passing hours. They remain as if wanting to engrave every word in your core. This is not a result of distraction, nor is it merely a fragment of loose thoughts. It is a specific touch, a message that deep down you know is not casual. There are moments when you wake up and feel your heart racing. The phrases heard in the dream still vibrate, almost like an echo that insists on repeating itself. You try to resume your routine, but those words remain lurking, demanding reflection. Why would they be so clear? Why would they hit something you were trying to decide or understand so directly? It may be God's way of speaking directly to your spirit, without detours, without getting lost in incomprehensible symbols. It is a way to draw your attention to something that requires immediate action. Maybe you have been planning something for a long time, but carry insecurity about the next steps. Maybe there is a doubt that you cannot resolve through conventional methods. Then, in the midst of sleep, words emerge that seem to answer exactly that dilemma. You wake up and feel a different serenity, as if finally you had found the answer you were looking for. Do not treat this as a simple stroke of luck. This type of experience usually brings a clarity that does not fade with the break of dawn. It is a voice that echoes in the soul, making it clear that you should not ignore what was said. In other situations, the message may not be comfortable. The words may point to something you do not want to face. Even so, there is a conviction that behind them, there is a purpose. You feel that pang of urgency, you realize that you need to adjust your course or have the courage to change some choices that seemed untouchable. God does not seek to confuse you. He offers direction. Even if the message is challenging, it comes to illuminate paths, not to leave you disoriented. You might even try to deny it. You might tell yourself that it was just a coincidence, a creation of the subconscious. But there is something in you that knows how to distinguish between an ordinary dream and an experience that overflows with meaning. When the phrase remains alive, When the heart insists on reacting, it is a sign that the message cannot be discarded. Recognizing this is a step of courage. It is to admit that there is an active spiritual sphere, ready to instruct, console, and sometimes confront. It's not enough just to listen. It's important to embrace, reflect, and put into practice what was communicated. Don't let the fear of creating a fantasy paralyze you. If those words reach the core of your soul, you know it's time to respond. Opening your heart to this voice is like allowing faith to strengthen with every step, with every choice. You don't want to miss this moment of insight. You don't want to waste something that was delivered so clearly. Now give a sign that you are willing to value these words. Write in the comments, "I recognize the voice that speaks to my dreams." Don't hesitate. When you type this phrase, you are not just leaving a casual note. You are making a commitment of attention and reverence. It's a way of saying, "I will not ignore what has been revealed. I want to move forward with confidence." Every time someone makes this declaration, another heart gains the courage to do the same. An environment of encouragement arises, a circle of people ready to hear what comes from above. Write this phrase with conviction. Take possession of what has come to you. It is in this gesture that you declare yourself open to the voice that echoes in the silence of sleep, bringing directions that often seem inaccessible in the rush of daily life. Be firm. Declare that you recognize this voice and that you will not let it go unnoticed. It doesn't matter if the message was soft or challenging. What matters is that it remains alive within you. And by sharing your comment, you inspire others to do the same, not to underestimate what they have heard. This is how a network of faith is created, in which each person, by recognizing the voice in their dreams, strengthens the journey of everyone. Memories of past wounds and situations. There are moments when sleep brings strong images, and you wake up with a heavy heart, as if you had relived something that was kept in the shadows of the past. Maybe it's an interrupted conversation, an unspoken goodbye, a repressed pain that insists on presenting itself when you least expect it. Instead of rejecting this experience, consider that God may be opening a window for healing. It is not a punishment nor a form of torture. It is an invitation to face what was left unfinished. Some wake up frightened after dreaming of someone who left without final resolutions, or with events that left deep wounds. That face, that uncomfortable scene, everything seems to resurface out of nowhere, causing distress. And yet, there may be a greater purpose in this oniric encounter. It is as if something is saying, "It's time to look at this, no more running away." It may be difficult, it may hurt, but ignoring it doesn't solve anything. Notice when the body reacts: tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, tears stuck in the throat. These signs show that there is something alive within you, clamoring for attention. You can continue pretending that everything is fine, or accept the possibility that God wishes to free you from a weight that has long been preventing you from moving forward. This type of dream does not arise by mere chance. It sprouts so that you can open up to a healing process that perhaps has been delayed. There are those who try to erase these memories, but erasing is not synonymous with healing. If that past still causes pain, it means it has not been truly overcome. There may be forgiveness to be granted, words that weren't said, resentments that poison the present and prevent full fulfillment. And if God allows you to relive this in dreams, it is so that you can finally deal with what was previously hidden. Yes, it can be uncomfortable to face what has been hidden for so long. It might seem simpler to keep leaving everything under the rug. But that choice keeps you hostage, carrying chains that are not visible but weigh down and affect your relationships, your decisions, even your perception of yourself. Dreaming about what causes sadness or anger is a sign that you have the chance to break down internal barriers, to free what holds you back. If upon waking you feel that the dream has shaken structures that seemed untouchable, do not cower. Open your heart. Name your wounds. Allow the light to reach every dark corner. Seek guidance. Talk to those who can offer wisdom. Read something that nourishes faith. And above all, be aware that God does not want you to keep dwelling on pains. He wants to lead you to a state of genuine peace, where the marks of the past no longer define your worth. You may need to forgive someone who hurt you. It may be necessary to accept that not all answers will come immediately. But the crucial point is to decide not to remain a victim of what has already happened. Each of these dreams represents a chance to turn a painful chapter into learning, to close cycles that still hammer the soul. You might wonder if it really makes sense to relive such bitter memories. But note that these dreams don't happen night after night without reason. When they become recurring or strong enough to deeply move you, it's because there is a spiritual movement wanting to lead you to a new stage of maturity and inner fulfillment. Therefore, do not face these dreams with despair. Remember that God does not point out flaws to condemn. He reveals wounds to heal. This process requires surrender, but it brings rewards. Lightness, reconciliation, the ability to look back without feeling haunted by something. It's a journey that strengthens your faith because you recognize you are not walking alone. There is an invisible hand sustaining, illuminating, and guiding each step. Now take a step of courage. Comment, I am willing to face what God wants to heal. And by writing this, you make it clear that you no longer want to avoid old wounds, pretending they do not exist. You open yourself to deep restoration. And when other people see this statement from you, they also feel motivated to break their barriers and seek the same healing. This simple phrase can have a powerful effect. Write without hesitation, I am willing to face what God wants to heal. This comment, as brief as it may seem, signals a commitment that can transform your reality and inspire those who read your testimony. Thus, each of us walks towards a freer heart, less burdened, where past memories do not function as chains, but as steps towards a full life. The intensity of nighttime emotions. There are moments when you wake up with your chest pounding so hard that it is almost audible in the darkness of the room. It was not a common nightmare, nor a simple dream of joy. It was something that touched an area you didn't even know existed. It could have been an encounter with someone you haven't seen in years, a situation that brought nostalgia, or an image that stirred your deepest feelings. You try to go back to sleep, but the memory remains pulsating, reminding you that behind what is visible, there is something profound that deserves attention. God sees every emotion you carry. He is not limited to what you show to the world or what you declare with words. He knows what is hidden, what you try to deny, what makes your heart waver. On some occasions, when the rush of the day covers these layers, He chooses to touch your emotions during sleep. There is no escaping at that moment. You are vulnerable, without distractions, without filters. And upon waking, it becomes clear that something special has happened. It could be a dream that brought contagious joy, reminding you of things you've lost along the way. Or a dream that touched on an old guilt, a resentment that insists on weighing you down. You wake up and feel tears wanting to fall, or a relief that you can't explain. This manifestation should not be treated as just any episode. There is a purpose in this emotional intensity that God awakens. It is as if He wants you to acknowledge what you have not yet faced while awake. If you have been postponing a conversation, forgiveness, or reconciliation, perhaps this dream is the push you needed. If you have been avoiding facing something that causes you fear, it could be that this very dream is the proof that you have the strength to overcome it. The dream, at times, is just the stage where locked-up emotions are revealed. And when you realize how much they impact you, you understand that you cannot continue to ignore them. Thus, God uses this opportunity to show that there is something more vast within you. Don't blame yourself for feeling too much. Don't think that intensity is weakness or exaggeration. If God is releasing these sensations, it's because it's time to do something about it. Maybe you need to forgive that person who hurt you. Maybe it's time to appreciate those who are by your side and you hadn't noticed. Maybe it's essential to stop hiding that personal dream you thought was impossible. When you embrace these emotions, you realize that they can be instruments of healing, closeness, and change. Yes, there are those who prefer to suffocate these impressions. They fear that everything is just an illusion, a trick of the mind, but this doesn't erase the reality that the heart moved in a significant way. This is where you choose between continuing to ignore the obvious or allowing God to reveal the truth and show what needs to be restored. This openness brings a courage you didn't even know you had. Notice if there was something in that recurring dream, a theme that has appeared before, a person who hadn't surfaced in a long time. In many cases, God insists until you agree to delve deeper. It's in this insistence that you recognize you can't keep it hidden any longer. When this clarity arrives, you feel invited to act. It's not enough to admire the change. You need to dive into it. Now take a stance of surrender. Write in the comments, "I allow God to reveal to me what I need to feel." By doing this, you admit that you no longer want to remain on the surface, where everything is shallow and predictable. You want to go further, discover what God has been whispering in your heart during the night. This small phrase publicly records your step of faith. It's a powerful declaration that encourages those who read it, showing that there is a path of courage and sincerity for those who wish to advance in faith. Don't let the fear of seeming too sensitive keep you from what God is trying to show you. If He chose this way to speak, it's because He knows exactly what He is doing. Your part is to listen, welcome, reflect, and let this experience chart new directions. There is much to be understood when you make space for deep emotions. By writing, "I allow God to reveal to me what I need to feel," you begin to see your internal barriers give way, opening the path for a transformation that comes from within. Write down this declaration now. Let others be inspired to follow this same path of sincerity. Intense emotions do not exist to torment. They signal points that need attention. And God, by stirring up this whirlwind, is speaking directly to your soul. Don't miss the chance to listen, learn, and grow stronger. The vivid reality that confuses wakefulness. There are moments when you wake up, and it takes a few seconds to understand that you were actually asleep. The heart still beats in rhythm with what you saw, and the sounds seem to reverberate in your ears. That sense of reality is so strong that you almost smell the perfume of the place you were in. It's not an empty illusion. It's as if the dream has surpassed common limits, bringing signs that cannot be dismissed. When a dream comes with vivid colors, clear dialogues, and settings that seem tangible, it is likely that something more is happening. You might see details that speak directly to your current life, to the issues that consume you. It is common to wake up confused, but with the impression that you received a very specific message. This type of experience should not be disregarded. God has subtle ways of manifesting, and vivid dreams are often one of these ways. If you have been carrying doubts about which direction to take, it may be that this dream has presented a clear answer. In certain cases, the dream scenario repeats itself, showing places you will recognize over the days. In others, there are people who bring such precise words that they seem to answer your questions even before you formulate them. Do not treat this as something random. Write everything down on paper or somewhere you can read again later. Sometimes the pieces only fit together later. Some people try to ignore this phenomenon. They think it is an exaggeration or a product of their own restless mind. However, the clarity remains. It's as if the dream is inviting you not to be skeptical, to accept that there is something beyond what the eyes see in the daily rush. God does not shout. He whispers in moments of stillness, and sleep can be one of the windows he uses to illuminate paths that seemed obscure. Some people experience deep tranquility after this type of dream. They feel that there is finally peace, even if the circumstances have not yet changed. Others are prompted to take a bold step, as the scenes they witnessed were encouraging, showing that there is no need to fear. This awakening does not mean an absence of challenges, but signals that there is an available answer, a route to follow, and that you are not alone. When this clarity arises in the middle of the night, it is up to you to decide whether to pay attention. If you discard it, you may miss a unique opportunity to perceive the divine hand acting in a detail that you would not capture while awake. In many situations, the answer you were so seeking comes camouflaged in a mysterious dialogue, in an image that does not leave your head, or in a phrase that keeps hammering away at your thoughts, no matter what the content is. Don't discard it. Each piece can be significant. It may take some time before you understand the full meaning. There are cases where, weeks later, something happens that makes you remember that dream. It's at that point that everything becomes clear. God had already been preparing the ground, shedding light on what seemed confusing. Therefore, writing down each part is essential. What doesn't make sense today might prove crucial tomorrow. At its core, this type of experience stimulates faith to grow. When you realize that something so detailed could be announced in a nocturnal vision, you acknowledge that there is a force operating beyond the visible. This doesn't entail believing in vague fantasies. It means accepting that there are dimensions of your own being that only open up when daily distractions are set aside. And God, knowing the rhythm of your heart, often waits for this moment to make himself heard. There is no need to understand everything immediately. Allow understanding to blossom in its own time. But take a simple action that can open even bigger doors. Declare here and now in the comments, "I receive divine clarity in my dreams." When you do this, something moves. You are no longer stagnant, no longer just a spectator. You put yourself in a position of availability, showing that you take seriously the visions that shake you during rest. By writing this phrase, you publicly manifest that you don't want to live only on a superficial level. You want to see the signs that God offers. Every time someone reads this comment, they gain encouragement to also seek discernment. These are chains of faith that form, pushing one another to pay attention to the details that might go unnoticed due to lack of vigilance. So don't hesitate. Register now. I receive divine clarity in my dreams. This gesture is simple, but it can be the starting point for discoveries that will transform the way you view situations around you. It is an invitation for things to stop being hazy, for the truth to present itself with more clarity, for your heart to open to care that does not follow the limited rules of human reasoning. You are not here by chance. If this topic resonates within you, it is a sign that something is already moving. Honor that possibility. Make room for a deeper understanding that is not based on cold explanations, but on the perception that God uses even the silence of the night to speak. Leave this comment, firm up that connection, and prepare yourself to see the scenario that He wants to illuminate in your life. The confusion that leaves a deep mark. Have you ever dreamed something seemingly disconnected, but throughout the day it continued to reverberate? Meaningless images, truncated dialogues, fragmented scenarios, yet something in you said that it was not as random as it seemed. Sometimes God speaks amidst apparent confusion, testing whether you will seek discernment or discard what you saw. Messages do not always arrive clearly. He may choose to speak through metaphors, symbols, different scenarios to provoke your search. It is a way to encourage you to draw closer, to pray, to reflect, to ask, "God, what do you want to show?" Or, when this question is asked sincerely, The answer does not delay. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come. Write in the comments, "I persist in seeking understanding." This comment is a commitment. Even if you feel lost, you are declaring that you will not give up until you understand what is being communicated. And this persistence ends up strengthening not only you, but also those who read your declaration of faith. The comforter in the chaos. Some dreams come amidst profound pains. You may be experiencing grief, depression, or an anguish that seems endless. And at the very moment when everything appears unbearable, God chooses to comfort you during sleep. It's that dream where He makes His presence felt, either through a feeling of warmth or a setting that conveys hope. This does not solve everything immediately, but it touches the heart in a way that human words cannot. You wake up feeling a tiny bit of strength, a freshness of faith that didn't exist before. Do not underestimate this experience. It can be the seed of a change that will gradually take root. Acknowledge, God is caring for you, even when everything seems gray. Write in the comments, "I receive God's comfort in my dreams." Type it now. This simple act is not trivial. It is a way for you to express gratitude for this care. It also encourages other people, showing that pain is not the end, that comfort can come in the most unexpected forms. The call to transformation. Not always do dreams come to provide a gentle word. There are moments when the message is confrontational. God may use images that expose what you do not want to see. He may show, in a compelling way, the need to change behaviors, abandon habits, forgive or ask for forgiveness. These dreams often create discomfort, but they are extremely necessary. Perhaps you have already felt that a dream was poking at a wound that you insist on not treating. It could be envy, bitterness, resentment, selfishness, or any other area that needs to be shaped. This dream comes as a mirror reflecting what you refuse to see in your daily life. The question is, will you ignore it, or will you embrace the opportunity to grow? Firmly comment, "I accept the process of transformation that God offers me." This sentence, when registered in the comments, is a stance. You are willing to deal with whatever is necessary, without fleeing, without masks. It is a courageous step towards a life more aligned with what God desires for you. The dream that is not only yours. There are times when the dream you have is not meant only for you. God can use your period of rest to reveal something that will benefit another person. Perhaps you dream of a friend who is in trouble, or have a vision about a family that needs help. Upon sharing the dream, you realize that person feels it was exactly the sign they were waiting for. This may seem strange or scary, but it's not uncommon. God works in networks, connecting hearts so that love and care may multiply. If you have ever experienced this, you know how impactful it is to realize your dream was a bridge to help someone. And if it hasn't happened yet, stay attentive. It could be that at any moment, one of your dreams might be an answer for someone who is desperately praying. Write in the comments, "I am willing to be an instrument of God." This declaration places you at disposal so that your dreams can also be useful in the lives of others. And this chain of availability inspires those who read it, generating an atmosphere of cooperation and mutual assistance. The motivation to move forward. God also uses dreams to rekindle the spirit that you thought you had lost. When all your strength seems to be exhausted, a dream may arise that injects courage, determination, and a renewed sense of purpose. It is as if He whispered within you a reminder that there is still a path, a future, a promise. Have you ever had the kind of dream where you wake up feeling rejuvenated, ready to do what once seemed impossible? These are gifts. They don't happen every day, but when they do, it's undeniable that something extraordinary is happening. You realize that the motivation didn't come from outside, but from something higher that encourages you to keep going. Comment: my strength comes from God and is renewed in dreams. This statement seals the idea that you don't rely solely on your own effort, but on an unlimited source of encouragement. Writing this makes it clear that you base yourself not on circumstances, but on something that transcends human limitations. How to know if a dream comes from God? You might wonder, how do I distinguish if a particular dream comes from God, or if it's just a random daydream? There is no exact formula because God doesn't follow human scripts. But there are signs. Generally, divine dreams leave a trail of peace or conviction, even if they require changes. They don't bring excessive confusion nor contradict biblical principles. They also tend to remain in memory, unlike common dreams that quickly fade away. If you wake up with the impression that something very significant has been placed in your heart, don't let haste swallow up that experience. Write down what you remember, pray, ask for discernment, and over the days, pay attention to events that might confirm what you dreamed. God does not act inconsistently. He aligns things, and when you least expect it, the truth of the dream starts to reveal itself. Comment: I seek discernment to understand my dreams. This stance demonstrates that you don't want to stay on the surface. You want to go beyond, dive into what God wants to show. It also encourages every reader to take the same posture. Recognizing the right time. It may take time for the meaning of a dream to be fulfilled. Sometimes you receive a message about something that will only happen months or even years later. This does not mean the dream was useless. On the contrary, it is a sign that God is preparing you in advance for something you cannot yet envision. In His time, everything fits together. Maybe you have a very specific dream, but when you look around, nothing seems to make sense. Keep waiting. Do not despair thinking that you have made a mistake or misunderstood. Keep that dream, meditate on it, maintain your faith. God does not follow the human clock, but His own. And when the right time comes, you will understand why you received that vision in the past. Write in the comments: I wait patiently for the fulfillment of what God reveals. In this way, you confirm your determination not to give up, not to grow impatient. This wait is not passive, it involves trust and preparation. And each person who reads your comment will also feel encouraged to persevere. When the dream defies reason. There are dreams that seem impossible to achieve, dreams that show you in situations far beyond what you believe you are capable of. What if God is revealing something grand that He wants to do in your life? What if He is inviting you to dream higher, to believe in the impossible? This type of experience can be frightening as it breaks logic and overcomes the barriers of your sense of capability. Many biblical characters found themselves in situations they never imagined. God showed surprising scenarios and placed gigantic challenges. Those who accepted the call lived extraordinary achievements. Those who backed away lost the opportunity to experience things that go beyond the ordinary. In which group do you want to be? Affirm in the comments: I believe in the impossible that God shows me. This is a confession of faith that removes mental blocks. What seems impossible to you is not for God. By writing, you align yourself with a greater purpose which dispenses with strict logic. And those who read your words may feel compelled to believe as well. Embracing confirmations. Sometimes a dream confirms something you have been suspecting or asking God about. It's as if He is saying, yes, this is the direction. Yes, this is the path. Yes, it's time. When this confirmation arises, do not hesitate. You have already been praying, already seeking clarity. The dream might be exactly the divine seal for what was uncertain. Resist the fear of acting. If you asked for an answer and it came clearly in a dream, there is no reason to keep procrastinating. God does not play with your faith. He knows when it is time to speak. So if you received the sign, move. Don't let insecurity or the opinion of others stifle what has been confirmed. Write in the comments, "I act according to what God confirms." This phrase reflects an attitude of obedience and courage. You are not just a listener, but someone who, upon hearing, takes on the responsibility of acting, and that makes all the difference. Dreams and prayer. Prayer is the channel that connects you directly to the Creator. When you pray asking for discernment about a dream, something intensifies. God sees your desire to understand, your thirst for answers, your humility in acknowledging that without Him, you do not find profound truth. And in these moments, He tends to intensify the revelations. You may have noticed that after praying about something specific, you dreamed of a scene that brought you more clarity, or that, by insisting on a particular issue, God gave you repeated signs. The dream is part of a dialogue. He speaks, you respond, and everything connects. It is a living process that nourishes your faith. Comment: my prayer joins the dreams that God shows me. In this way, you unite the two ends, speaking and listening. You no longer want to live a passive spirituality. You want to enter the conversation, seek, and interact. This comment can inspire viewers to persist in prayer, even when answers do not come immediately. Tai. When the dream involves other people. There are times when you dream about relatives, friends, or even strangers, and feel that it is not by chance. Perhaps these people are in need of divine intervention, but do not know how to ask or cannot see it. God can use you, through a dream, to awaken empathy, prayer, and perhaps even a practical act of assistance. If you dreamed that a certain person was in danger or need, do not ignore it. Pray for them, offer help, ask how they are doing. Many times, God uses these windows to let love circulate. It's not about showing off by saying, "I had a dream and I want to control your life." It's about being sensitive and receiving the message. You may be surprised to discover that this person was going through exactly what the dream indicated. Leave in the comments, "I pray for those whom God shows me in dreams." This comment generates an atmosphere of care. It shows that you are not centered only on yourself, but attentive to the pains and needs of others. Thus, you become an agent of transformation far beyond what you imagine. The courage to share. Some people are afraid to share what they dreamed. They fear being judged, thinking they are imaginative or that they will seem too mystical. But if a dream was sent to touch lives, keeping it to yourself can be a waste. God may have placed something in your hands that can change the trajectory of the listener. I'm not saying to go out screaming about every detail to anyone, but if there is a strong feeling that you should share that content with someone specific, don't hold back. It may be the perfect fit for a situation that person is facing. Do not underestimate how God uses each of us. Comment: I am ready to share what God reveals to me. This shows availability. It is not arrogance. It is service. You do not isolate yourself, but share the blessing you received. And this willingness encourages every reader to do the same. The act of sharing creates waves of change. The seed you plant by writing down your dreams. How many transformative dreams are lost because we do not record them? The human mind is fragile when it comes to keeping details. You wake up remembering everything, but if you don't write it down, hours later, you've forgotten most of it. Writing it down is not obsession, it is consideration. If you believe that God speaks, why not record everything carefully? Keep a notebook next to your bed or use your cell phone to write down what you can. Do this immediately upon waking, even if it's in the middle of the night. Note the details that seem trivial. Often it is these elements that make all the difference later. It is an act of discipline that demonstrates real interest in understanding. Leave in the comments, "I will write down my dreams so I don't lose the message." This commitment shows that you value what you receive. You do not want the routine to erase something that may be essential for your growth. The simple act of writing this can give others the courage to start this very useful habit. Progressive revelations. God does not always reveal everything at once. Sometimes a dream comes with parts of a message, and you will only fully understand it after some time, when you receive another dream or when you experience something that fits the pieces together. It is as if He gives fragments so that you develop patience, trust, and constant seeking. Don't get frustrated if the first dream doesn't clarify everything. Stay alert. The second or third dream might complete the puzzle. God works in layers, and each layer requires you to trust more. It's a process that strengthens faith and deepens your relationship with Him. Comment: I accept revelations in parts and trust God's timing. This attitude shows that you don't demand immediate answers. You learn to wait, to be vigilant, and to value each step of the journey. And this trust inspires those who read to do the same. When awakening brings an unavoidable decision, it may happen that you wake up with a decision beating strongly in your chest. The dream was so clear that there is no longer any doubt. It's as if God is saying, "The time is now, don't delay." These decisions can be simple or radical. They may involve asking for forgiveness, ending a toxic situation, moving to a new city, starting a project, several possibilities. If you've experienced this urgent awakening, you know how challenging it can be. The mind tries to rationalize, but the heart burns with a certainty that needs no arguments. In such cases, either you obey or you feel suffocated by restlessness. God doesn't want you to suffer. He wants to lead you to something better, and if you don't act, you might miss the window of opportunity. Comment: Today, I make the decision God has awakened me to make. This comment is not just symbolic. It is a courageous act of aligning your will with the divine direction. Those who read it will see that there is power in prompt obedience. And this example might be the push someone needs. The importance of developing sensitivity. It's no use receiving multiple dreams and not having the sensitivity to capture the message. Sensitivity is developed by cultivating moments of silence, prayer, spiritual reading, and an open heart. It is a daily practice of paying attention to details, valuing the things that seem small. When you exercise this vigilance, it becomes easier to recognize when a dream stands out. Have you noticed how, when you are in a hurry, you overlook details that could be crucial? In the same way, if you live running around without ever pausing to reflect, you will lack the discernment to perceive what God reveals in dreams. Sensitivity requires you to slow down, to prioritize the spiritual rather than treat it as the last item on the agenda. Note: I cultivate sensitivity to hear God's voice. Leave this comment as a pact with yourself. You are affirming that you do not want to live haphazardly. You want to be awake, conscious, open to what God whispers, even while you sleep. Dreams that encourage forgiveness. Forgiveness is a deep theme, and sometimes you hold on to grudges without even realizing it. God can use a dream to expose this wound. You might dream of the person who hurt you, feeling that something within you is calling for reconciliation. It's not simple, but it is liberating. When God insists on showing someone in your dreams, it may be time to release what has been imprisoned in your heart. Maybe you resist, saying that forgiving is unfeasible or unjust. But deep down, you know that forgiveness is a relief for the soul. If the dream exposes the need to forgive, don't run away. Embrace the opportunity to rebuild your inner self. It's not about approving what was done, but about not letting bitterness destroy you. Write, "I am ready to forgive and be forgiven." This act of faith allows you to embrace the challenge that God is presenting, and those who read this may feel challenged too, generating an atmosphere of liberation that transcends the barriers of pride. The dreams that awaken gratitude. You may dream of situations that remind you of how much you have been cared for and protected. Sometimes God revives a moment when you were delivered from something bad or received a blessing that you no longer valued. These dreams rekindle gratitude, showing that despite the struggles, there are reasons to recognize divine action in your history. If you wake up feeling your heart full of gratitude for something that hadn't crossed your mind, don't ignore it. That feeling may be an invitation to thank more, to praise more, to remember that there is constant care over your life. God enjoys when you acknowledge the good He does. Comment, I thank God for everything He has done and continues to do for me. This declaration reinforces a virtue often forgotten, gratitude. It not only honors God, but brings lightness to your soul. It encourages those who read it to also look at their journey with eyes of praise. When the dream reveals neglected areas. It may be that suddenly you dream of something related to your health, your finances, your work, or any other area in need of attention. It's as if God is nudging. You are neglecting this. Wake up. These dreams can come with discomfort, clearly showing a blind spot in your life. If you saw something you are ignoring, it's time to act. God doesn't show it for no reason. If He highlights a health problem, seek medical help. If He exposes your disorganized financial situation, look for a plan. Don't use the dream as a curiosity. Use it as a push to take concrete actions. Comment, I correct today the areas that God showed me. This record demonstrates a commitment to not continue in error. It's a step of maturity. Those who read understand that spirituality is not an escape from reality, but a way to face life with more awareness and responsibility. The time determined by God. Some dreams come to show that there is a specific time for each event. You may dream about seasons of the year, clocks, signs of a cycle change. This indicates that God has a way to organize your story, and it's crucial to respect this rhythm. There are times to plant and times to harvest, moments to prepare and moments to advance. If your dream points to a new cycle, don't hesitate. Get ready. If it shows that it's time to wait, don't rush. Every detail counts. Sometimes anxiety makes you want to speed things up, but God, in His wisdom, knows the right moment. Pay attention to the symbols, as they can be fundamental. Write in the comments, I respect the time that God has determined for me. This statement symbolizes surrender. You don't want to be the master of the clock. You want to trust that He knows when the doors should open. And whoever reads it understands the importance of this conscious waiting. Discerning between dreams and common nightmares. Some nightmares have no divine message. They are just reflections of fears, tensions, or even external stimuli. Discernment is fundamental. As we've said before, divine dreams usually have a purpose, even if they show something difficult. Empty nightmares generate sterile fear, without any direction. If you wake up only terrified, but without any impression that something is being communicated, it is possibly not a spiritual revelation. To have this sensitivity, you need a relationship with God, spiritual reading and prayer. This way, you learn to recognize what comes from Him and what is the result of an agitated mind. Don't live in the paranoia of thinking every dream is divine. Be realistic. If there is no sign of peace, direction, or constructive alert, it is probably just a common nightmare. Comment, I seek discernment to separate what is divine from what is not. This comment shows that you do not want to fall into exaggerations, but also do not want to ignore what is legitimate. Balance is the word, and each reader can be inspired to pursue that same balance. Dreams and the written word. Many people forget that the Bible offers examples of dreams that changed entire stories. Joseph, Daniel, and others were guided by nighttime messages that came from God. When you read these passages, it becomes clearer that God really chooses this means to reveal himself, and he continues to act today. The written word is a resource to confirm whether a dream makes sense, because God does not contradict himself. If a dream is entirely contrary to divine character and principles, be suspicious. God would not use something that violates what he has established. However, if the dream aligns with what has already been revealed in Scripture, it is a strong indication that he may be speaking. Stay alert. Record. I examine my dreams in the light of God's word. And in this way, you make it clear that you do not follow just any voice, but seek coherence with eternal principles. This inspires each reader to also align their personal experience with unchanging truth. The relevance of sharing with those who trust in God. It can be useful to share a dream with someone who has spiritual maturity, someone capable of praying with you, analyzing carefully, and offering wise counsel. Of course, you should not go around exposing your dreams to just anyone, as some may mock or create erroneous interpretations. But having a spiritual support network is essential. You do not need to face everything alone. God places people around you to walk together. If you have doubts about a dream, seek someone who can guide you without judgment but with due seriousness. This way, you avoid falling into confusion or taking hasty actions. Comment. I seek wise help to understand my dreams. This statement reveals humility and prudence. It inspires others to do the same. Let us not be presumptuous, believing that we can interpret everything on our own. Dreams and ministerial direction. For those who hold any kind of ministry or spiritual service, dreams can be powerful tools of guidance. God can show ways to lead, strategies to care for people, needs that are hidden in the community. This requires even greater sensitivity, as it involves responsibility for other lives. If you are in a position of leadership, whether in the church, prayer groups, or any service role, do not underestimate what you dream. There are cases where God directs a leader to make important decisions precisely through repetitive or very vivid dreams. Respect these indications. Comment. I allow God to guide my ministry through dreams. This gesture communicates that you are willing to lead, not based on guesswork, but on guidance from above. It motivates other leaders to seek this same sensitivity. When the dream strengthens the relationship with God. As you begin to perceive God's hand in your dreams, your relationship with him deepens. You understand that he is not a distant entity, but someone who cares about every detail of your life. This care increases intimacy, trust, and reverence. You begin to recognize how much he wants to speak and be involved with you. Your moments of prayer gain a new meaning. You go to sleep with an open heart, asking if God wants to show something. And when you wake up, you are ready to reflect on what you saw. This process of seeking creates a routine of constant communion, and gradually your life is transformed. Right. My relationship with God strengthens with every dream he sends. This comment symbolizes a living testimony that dreams are not just nighttime phenomena, but a way of communication that solidifies the connection between you and the Creator. Signs of protection in dreams. There are dreams that clearly show protective intervention. Perhaps you dream of escaping danger or receiving help at a critical moment. When you wake up, you feel that God is assuring you that you are safeguarded. This feeling of protection is not an illusion. It's a reminder that there is an invisible shield around you. If you have experienced this, you know the relief it brings. Even if the circumstances are tough, this type of dream renews courage because it indicates that God will not leave you alone. Remember to thank him for this care and to stay attentive to what he wishes to convey. Comment, I trust in divine protection revealed in my dreams. By declaring this, you acknowledge that your safety is not in your own hands, but in the hands of the one who watches over you day and night. The impact on your identity. Some dreams can reveal who you really are in God's eyes, undoing the distortions you have created about yourself. Perhaps you see yourself as weak, incapable, unworthy. God may show in the dream that you have a value you are unaware of, that there are dormant gifts, that there is an undeniable purpose waiting to be lived. This breaks internal barriers and propels you forward. When you wake up and realize that you are not just what the circumstances say, something changes. You become bold enough to seek what you once thought unreachable. And you discover that if God has called you to something, He Himself will enable you. Don't let doubt bury this flame. Write in the comments, I embrace the identity that God reveals to me in dreams. This statement confirms that you define yourself not by limitations, but by the truth that God speaks about you. And every person who reads it can be impacted to rethink their own identity. The formation of a new mindset. The more you realize that God speaks through dreams, the more your mindset adjusts to spiritual reality. You start to see the world not just by what you see or read in the news, but from the perspective of someone who trusts that something greater is at work. This change in mindset affects your choices, relationships, and mood. You stop living solely on the natural plane and begin to adopt a posture of constant expectancy regarding what God wants to do. This doesn't mean becoming mystical or alienated, but rather being connected to the truth that life is more than what our eyes perceive. And this new way of thinking brings lightness and depth. Comment. My mindset is transformed by the vision that God gives me in dreams. This position indicates that you are not tied to old thinking patterns. You want to grow, mature, and see life the way God sees it, and each reader is invited to experience the same. Honoring the experiences of others. Perhaps you know people who also receive dreams from God. Honor their experiences. Do not treat this as something minor or irrelevant. When someone shares a dream, listen attentively. If you do not understand, pray together, seek discernment. There is richness in the fact that God uses different people to reveal different parts of a great mosaic. True fellowship involves valuing others' experiences because you also expect your own to be respected. This exchange of spiritual experiences strengthens the body as a whole. It is as if each one has a piece that, united, forms the totality of the image that God wants to show. Leave a comment. I respect and embrace the dreams that God gives to others. By doing this, you demonstrate humility and collaboration. Encourage those who are reading to do the same, creating an environment of empathy. Relationship alerts. You may dream about the state of a specific relationship, whether it's romantic, familial, or a friendship. You might see something you hadn't noticed or receive a warning that something needs to be corrected. God cares about your relationships because they are an essential part of your life. Do not ignore the signs He sends. If you wake up with the impression that you need to talk to someone or adjust an attitude in a relationship, act on it. The worst choice is to delay when it comes to something the Creator has already pointed out. Delaying can generate more conflicts and distances. Sometimes all it takes is an initiative of sincere dialogue to reverse the situation. Comment. I take care of my relationships in the light of the dreams that God shows me. This way, you don't separate spiritual life from relational life. You understand that everything is interconnected, and every reader can learn this fundamental lesson. Conducting yourself with wisdom. Not every dream requires immediate action. Some require discernment. You need to reflect, pray, maybe talk to someone you trust before deciding what to do. Wisdom lies in not acting impulsively, but also not shelving things indefinitely. Balance between haste and procrastination. God gives the signal. You manage the timing of your response prudently. If unsure about the urgency of a dream, ask for clarity. Do not do anything hastily, but also do not sleep on the revelation. Wisdom comes when you balance faith and common sense, trusting that God will guide the process. Comment. I seek wisdom to act at the right time and in the right way. This posture shows that you don't want to be hasty or neglectful, and it encourages those reading to exercise the same prudence. Continuing the journey of interpretation. The interpretation of dreams is not a mathematical exercise. There are nuances, contexts, and above all, the direction of God. The same symbol can mean different things to different people. Therefore, do not cling to dream dictionaries that are rigid or superficial interpretations. Learn to listen to the Spirit, who knows your heart and circumstances better than anyone else. If you open yourself to this journey, you will realize that interpretation is not about deciphering random enigmas, but discovering the clues that God is giving you. And this will lead you to a deeper communion, as it will require dependence and humility. Recognize that without Him, you cannot discern what is essential. Continuation to reach about 100,000 characters. Comment. I continue seeking divine understanding for my dreams. This shows that you are not satisfied with shallow interpretations. You want to go further and allow God to explain what is necessary in due time. And each reader who sees this comment may feel the urge to also persevere in interpretation. The social impact of dreams. In some cases, God can reveal through a dream something that involves the community or society in which you live. It can be a warning about injustices, about ignored needs, about issues that require collective action. He does not limit himself to individual matters. He is concerned with the common good. If he shows you something that demands a response, do not hesitate. Have you heard of people who had dreams about catastrophes and took actions that saved lives? Or who, through a dream, realized that an underprivileged community urgently needed help? These are examples of how God can mobilize concrete actions to bring hope and change in the social context. Right. I am willing to act for the good of all when God shows me something. This statement goes beyond oneself. It shows a heart available to be an instrument of transformation, and it inspires others to have the same readiness. When the dream confirms the calling, you might be unsure about which profession to follow, which ministry to embrace, or which project to start. Sometimes God confirms your calling in a dream, making you see yourself in a specific role, feeling peace and identification. This can be decisive in taking a path you hesitated to take. You wake up with your heart vibrating, certain that you were called to that. It does not mean there won't be challenges, but that conviction helps to face difficulties with courage. If this happens to you, do not disregard it. It may be the missing answer to direct your professional or ministerial life. Comment. I receive God's call for my vocation. This phrase seals your decision to accept what was shown to you, and each person who reads it can remember the importance of seeking the purpose that God has designated. The importance of being grateful even when you don't understand everything. You won't always fully understand the dream. You may have doubts, not knowing the reason for certain scenes. Still, being grateful is essential. When you thank in advance, it reveals trust that there is a reason, even if it's not clear. God does not make mistakes, nor does he waste words. Gratitude opens doors. When you adopt a grateful attitude, even amidst confusion, it shows maturity and faith. It's like saying, God, I don't understand, but I trust you. Thank you for caring enough to send a message that I haven't completely grasped yet. This attitude attracts new revelations. Right. I thank God for everything he shows me, even without understanding. And this comment manifests a humility that pleases the Creator. It also encourages the reader to adopt gratitude as a lifestyle, regardless of certainty. The inner work that God does while you sleep. God may be working something within you. It's not just the message of the dream itself, but the very atmosphere in which He acts, healing old wounds, strengthening weakened areas, redirecting desires. Dreaming can be a channel for all of this to happen. You may wake up feeling that something has changed, even without a clear explanation. This is part of a mystery that our mind cannot completely decipher. But over time, you notice transformations in the way you think, in your habits, in your feelings, and you recognize that often these profound changes were potentiated during the nights. Do not limit God to the hours when you are conscious. He works 24 hours. Comment, I allow God to work in me while I sleep. This declaration shows surrender to the divine act without imposing barriers. And the reader realizes that there is no moment when God cannot work. The harvest of promises. Some dreams bring clear promises, showing glimpses of a blessed future. It may be the resolution of problems, the fulfillment of desires, or the achievement of something that seems distant. These dreams are like seeds that God plants in your heart to keep hope alive. However, harvesting these promises requires patience and faithfulness. It is not enough just to dream. You need to keep walking, doing your part, maintaining faith. God does not give a promise for you to sit back. He shows what can happen, motivating you to persist. If you align yourself with this vision, the time of harvest will come, and then you will remember that it all began with the simplicity of a dream. Comment. I cultivate the promises that God plants in my dreams. This posture is responsible and focused. You don't wait for things to fall from the sky. You fertilize, water, and prepare for the day when the fruit will appear. It's a reminder for everyone who reads about the importance of cooperating with the divine plan. Inexplicable answers to prayers. There are prayers you make in silence, in the innermost part of your soul, without even verbalizing. And suddenly, in a dream, God brings the answer that you didn't even know how to formulate in words. This type of intervention is striking because it shows that He listens even to the most secret cries, those that even we don't quite understand. If you have gone through this, you know how strong it is to realize that He has captured everything. And if you haven't experienced this yet, be open. It may happen soon. Do not doubt that He understands what your heart feels, even when your mouth says nothing. He is a specialist in deciphering human afflictions. Record. I believe that God answers even the prayers I can't express. This comment exudes faith in a God who knows every detail of your inner self, and by reading, others can remember that they don't need to have perfect words to be heard. The refreshment in nights of anguish. Some early mornings are so heavy that you fear falling asleep. The pain, anxiety, or insomnia seems as though it will dominate, but when you finally manage to fall asleep, you receive a dream that brings refreshment, like a balm. You wake up feeling that something has been relieved within you, even though the circumstances still haven't changed. This refreshment is proof of love. God is showing that even when everything seems dark, there is hope. He injects courage into your heart to keep fighting. Remember that He doesn't quickly put an end to all problems, but promises to be by your side, sustaining you. And sometimes the way He sustains is through this restorative dream. Comment. I find relief in God's care during my sleep. Writing this is not just a formality, it is acknowledging that a greater rest is available. The reader may be touched to open up to this same possibility of relief. Dreams and the presence of angels. There are situations where, in a dream, you perceive the presence of angels. You may not see them clearly, but feel something unmistakable. In other cases, there are reports of angels who speak, protect, or guide the person in dangerous scenarios. Such accounts, when genuine, are not fiction. They are demonstrations that God sends his messengers to act. Do not cultivate an excessive fascination with angels, as your main focus should be the Creator. However, recognizing the action of these celestial beings can increase your confidence in divine care. They perform specific tasks according to the purpose God has established for each moment. Right. I believe that God sends angels to guard me even in my dreams. This statement demonstrates an understanding that nothing is random or fanciful, and it reinforces that the reader might feel supported by remembering there is a heavenly army acting according to God's will. Building a legacy. When you begin to witness to others about how God spoke to you in dreams, you are building a legacy of faith. Your children, grandchildren, friends, or disciples can be inspired by the stories you share. This creates encouragement for future generations. What you experience today can impact countless people tomorrow. Do not remain silent, for your account could be the spark that rekindles faith in someone. It could be that upon hearing what you experienced, another person awakens to notice they are also receiving divine messages. Do not underestimate the power of a sincere and humble testimony. Comment, I share what God does in my dreams to edify others. This stance reveals that you do not keep the blessing for yourself. You understand that you are part of something greater, and each reader is invited to pass on what they receive. The mark that does not fade. Some dreams leave a permanent mark. Even after years, you still remember every detail because it changed your way of looking at life. It may have been a special encounter with God, a crucial direction, or a confirmation that brought peace. These marks are like tattoos on the soul, evidence that there was an encounter with something transcendental. If you carry a dream that still accompanies you to this day, don't treat it as mere nostalgia. There may be more lessons to extract from it. Perhaps you need to relive the emotions to renew your faith, to remember promises, or to be grateful for the care shown. The mark is not there by chance. It is a living reminder that you were touched. Record. I honor the marks that God has left in my dreams and keep them with gratitude. This act reinforces the relevance of remembering what has been lived, and it encourages those who read to value the profound experiences they have had. The courage to question. Sometimes God allows a dream to awaken questions. He wants you to question, not to doubt him, but to seek understanding. Sincere questions can lead to profound revelations. If you had a dream that unsettled you, don't suppress the discomfort. Ask yourself what might be behind it. It is in this process of questioning that we learn to dialogue more with God. Do not be afraid to ask, why did I see this? What does this scene mean? Is there something I should do? This type of active search opens the way for new answers, which in turn expand your spiritual knowledge. Comment. I do not fear questioning to find God's answer. This boldness reveals a heart that is not satisfied with doubts, but seeks the truth. And those who read this can be encouraged not to repress their questions. Dreams that lead to financial contribution. God can use a dream to inspire someone to contribute financially to a cause, mission, or to help someone in need. You might dream of people starving or a project that needs resources. Upon waking, you feel a strong desire to collaborate. Do not neglect this impulse. This is not human manipulation. It is divine sensitization. If God is showing you this need, he might want to use you as a channel of provision. The response can bring great joy, for it is more blessed to give than to receive. And the dream can be the spark for a change in your attitude toward how you use your resources. Right, I act in generosity when God guides me in dreams. This action is not just words. It represents the willingness to put into practice what was shown to you. and it can inspire many who need to awaken to solidarity. Refining your character. Some dreams expose character traits that need refinement, such as vanity, arrogance, pride, selfishness. It is not pleasant to see this, but it is fundamental for growth. If God reveals in a dream that you have been acting stingily, for example, face this truth. Do not run away. Use the opportunity to change. Many deceive themselves, thinking that it is enough to avoid big sins and everything is fine. But God sees the interior. If He is drawing your attention to something that few notice, it is because that point, however small it may seem, can hinder your destiny. Do not neglect the message. Comment. I allow God to shape my character, even in dreams. This text shows humility, willingness to grow, and may everyone who reads it be driven to allow themselves to be shaped from within as well. Harmony between reason and faith. Many fear that by valuing dreams, they will be giving up reason. But it doesn't have to be this way. It is perfectly possible to balance a rational mind with openness to the supernatural. You don't stop being intelligent by believing that God speaks through dreams. In fact, you are embracing a dimension beyond the tangible. Faith does not annul reasoning. It expands its boundaries. You can reflect, question, analyze, yet still keep your heart open to what escapes human logic. God is greater than our parameters. Recognizing this is not foolishness, it is wisdom. Record. I use reason without blocking faith in the dreams that God gives me. This reconciliation is powerful and liberating. And those who read it realize that it is not necessary to choose between being rational or believing in the divine voice. Dreams and the miracles that happen. There are reports of miracles that materialized after God showed something in a dream. People were healed, family problems were resolved, barriers were broken down. God does not limit Himself to giving warnings. He also acts concretely. Sometimes He anticipates what He will do, generating expectation. And when the miracle happens, everything makes sense. This does not mean that there will always be an instant miracle. But when God decides to act, He can give advance warning so that you see the value of faith. And thus, when the miracle occurs, you do not doubt that it was He who did it. Comment. I believe that God can perform miracles that He announces in dreams. By declaring this, you grow your faith and also that of those who watch the video. It is a support point for those who need something supernatural in their lives. The willingness to serve. When you awaken to the fact that God speaks through dreams, it becomes natural to want to serve more. You realize that He cares about every detail and every person. This love contained in nocturnal revelations reflects how much He desires to see you helping, healing, advising, consoling. Serving others becomes a reflection of the gratitude you feel. There is no point in receiving divine messages if they do not generate action. God does not waste words. If He calls you, it is for a purpose that goes beyond just you. By being willing to serve, you expand the reach of these revelations. Nothing is more gratifying than fulfilling the role He has reserved. Right, I am ready to serve others as God guides me in dreams. This is an act that demonstrates responsibility and love, and it encourages those who read it to follow the same path of dedication. Combating doubt. Doubts can arise even when the dream is very clear. You might wonder if it is all just an invention of your mind, but realize doubt comes to block what God is communicating. It is natural to question, but staying in doubt without seeking answers can suffocate the message. Instead, confront uncertainties with faith and a quest for clarification. If doubt persists, talk to someone you trust, pray once more, ask for confirmation. God is not afraid of your questions, but He wants you not to stop at them, but to move forward until you find the certainty that comes from His presence. Comment. I do not allow doubt to prevent me from hearing God in dreams. In this way, you take a stand against disbelief that closes doors, and you set an example of courage for those who are reading. Darkness dispelled by dreams. There are moments when you feel oppressed, without hope. And then comes a dream that illuminates everything, shows a perspective you did not see. It's as if the internal darkness were confronted by a small light that reveals a path. This can be enough to rekindle the flame of confidence. Do not underestimate the power of a single spark. God is a specialist in transforming dark scenarios into landscapes of rebirth. If he sent a dream that broke through the barrier of your anguish, hold on to it with all your might. Do not let the darkness regain ground. Right, the light of God dispels all darkness through dreams. This comment awakens hope in anyone facing crises. It shows that even in the darkest night, a ray of divine light can arise. Recognizing justice and correction. God also uses dreams to correct you when you are in error. He may show you something unjust that you did, harsh words you have spoken, attitudes that hurt someone. Do not see this as punishment, but as love. He corrects because he wants you to grow. Resisting this correction is missing the opportunity to become a better person. If you are confronted in a dream, do not run away. Be thankful that there is still time to fix it. Ask for the strength to change, if necessary to apologize, to make amends. This humility is what makes you a true disciple, who is not ashamed to recognize mistakes and seek to make things right. Comment: I accept God's correction even in my dreams. This is a cry of maturity, showing that you do not shy away from what needs to be transformed. And it motivates other people to also embrace this stance. The richness of simple dreams. Not every dream is grand or spectacular. Many are simple but carry a powerful message. It could be something commonplace, like a banal conversation in a backyard, but you realize there is something there that awakens understanding. Simplicity does not take away the depth. Sometimes God uses the most trivial language to speak. If you had an apparently simple dream, but it left a strong impression, give it value. The extraordinary can hide in the ordinary. God doesn't need epic settings to manifest himself. He can speak in a kitchen, a bus, a small park, all within a dream. What matters is the message and the impact on your heart. Comment: I stay alert even to the simplest dreams that God gives me. This phrase shows respect for the varied ways that God may choose, and it encourages others not to disregard the small signs. The strengthening of faith in a group. When several people in the same circle start reporting dreams with similar themes, it could indicate that God is calling that group to something specific. It is a way to synchronize hearts, generate union, and establish a collective purpose. If you live in a faith community, pay attention to these corporate signs. Have you ever imagined if each member shares what they dreamed and everything converges to the same message? This can be incredibly inspiring because it shows that God directs not only individuals but entire groups. Encourage this sharing, always with respect and joint prayer. Right, I encourage my community to discern the dreams that God gives us. This gesture strengthens bonds and promotes an environment of deep communion. Each person becomes an active part of the larger plan that God has. The lightness to walk. Dreams can relieve emotional burdens. When you wake up from a dream where you cried, laughed, or expressed something contained, you realize you feel lighter. It's as if certain tensions have been released. God can use this mechanism to help you not carry unnecessary burdens. He cares about your emotional health. If upon waking you feel relief after an intense dream, praise God for this care. It may be that He allowed this release of emotions while you slept, sparing you from outbursts during the day. It's a subtle but real care that shows how He works in details. Comment: I am grateful for the relief that God grants me even in dreams. Recognizing this brings even more lightness, and it inspires those who read it to also appreciate these small, great touches of divine love. Ending stages through dreams. Sometimes you dream that something ends, a cycle, a project, a relationship, or a habit, and you wake up with the clarity that you need to close that stage in real life. It's not easy to end something, but it may be essential for moving forward. God knows when something has fulfilled its purpose and needs to be replaced by a new phase. If you had a dream that symbolizes an ending, honestly evaluate if you are insisting on something that should no longer continue. It could be a toxic habit, a job that no longer makes sense, a fruitless partnership. Have the courage to conclude what needs to end, for only then can the new emerge. Comment, I end what God has shown me has come to an end. This attitude defines a direction. It is not hesitant, it is firm, and it motivates those who read it to also make the necessary transitions in their lives. Beware of distortion. Some people, upon realizing that God speaks in dreams, may get excited to the point of wanting to interpret everything as a divine message. This creates distortion and can even lead to serious misunderstandings. Not every dream has spiritual relevance. It is essential to have discernment to not see prophecies in absolutely everything. Keep the balance. Seek God's direction in prayer regarding which dreams are relevant. Ask for confirmation. Do not make bombastic declarations without being sure of what you are interpreting. Maturity consists of recognizing that not everything is supernatural, while remaining open to what truly comes from Him. Write, I seek discernment so as not to distort God's dreams. This is a position of responsibility and humility. It encourages the reader not to fall into exaggerations or extremes. Marks of humility. Throughout the process of discovering that God speaks through dreams, you may feel special, but be careful not to feed pride. The fact of receiving divine messages does not place you above anyone. It is a privilege that must be exercised with reverence. If you exalt yourself, you may lose the purity of this relationship. Humility makes you use these dreams to serve, never to boast. Remember that God chooses whomever He wants, whenever He wants. Do not try to assume a position of prominence. Keep your heart in the right place, grateful and willing to obey. Comment, I receive God's dreams with humility and gratitude. This position reflects a mature character, recognizing the source of everything. It shows the reader the value of not becoming prideful. Testimonies that multiply. As you share the dreams that God gives you and the consequences of them in your life, others feel encouraged to speak as well. Reports emerge of how He acted in their lives, of how dreams were answers to deep problems. This exchange of testimonies is powerful, creating a network of faith that spreads. The more people tell their stories, the more others realize that they are not alone. They perceive that God has a particular way of acting with each person, and this movement generates collective praise as everyone sees the divine hand operating in a personalized yet equally loving manner. Right? I spread the testimonies so that more lives can be touched. Dain. This comment emphasizes the importance of not keeping to oneself the wonders that God does, and it motivates everyone to act in the same way. Preparation for future situations. There are those who repeatedly dream of a type of scenario or situation they have not yet experienced. It seems distant, but it becomes increasingly clear. When it finally happens in real life, the person realizes that God was already preparing their heart. This may involve moving to a new city, the arrival of children, new responsibilities, or any significant change. If you are receiving glimpses of something you do not yet understand, do not be distressed. Keep it in your heart. Continue walking, developing, and becoming the person capable of handling this new phase. God knows your steps and will not overload you beyond your strength. Comment. I prepare for the future that God already shows me in dreams. This attitude demonstrates wisdom. You do not remain idle, but you also do not despair, and those who read can learn to do the same, waiting with confidence. Dreams as a complement to other forms of revelation. God speaks in many ways through the written word, circumstances, counsel, and internal inspirations. Dreams are just one of these avenues. It is important not to fixate exclusively on them. Generally, God confirms his message in various ways. A dream can be the spark, but he reinforces the content through other means to leave no doubt. Pay attention to everything, not just what you see during sleep. If he wants to speak, he will do so one way or another. The dream is part of the whole, not the whole itself. Balance, again, is essential to avoid falling into obsessions. Comment: I understand that dreams are part of God's way of speaking, not the only way. This broad view avoids fanaticism and maintains sensibility. And those who follow notice the coherence in the life of faith. The flow of worship. When you realize how personal and detailed God is when speaking through dreams, your heart naturally overflows with worship. You acknowledge that he is not a distant idea, but a Father who engages in dialogue. This acknowledgement generates sincere praise. Every time he manifests, your being is filled with reverence. Worship is a natural response to divine greatness. You realize that everything he does, including the care of revealing something to you in your sleep, is an expression of love. This profound perception paves the way for a lifestyle marked by gratitude and the exaltation of the Creator. Right. I worship God for taking care of me even in my dreams. This is a way to externalize gratitude and the recognition that he deserves all honor. And the reader is also led to worship. The proof of daily fellowship. If you want to better grasp God's messages during sleep, a valuable practice is to cultivate fellowship with him during the day. Pray, meditate on inspiring passages, quiet your mind, adjust your attitudes. All these actions foster a more sensitive spirit. You do not disconnect your devotional life from your time of rest. A life of fellowship ensures that you are not surprised when God speaks to you in a dream, because you are already accustomed to the dialogue. Sleep ceases to be a mysterious boundary and becomes an extension of your walk with God. This brings peace and continuity. Comment: I live in constant fellowship to hear God at any moment. This sentence suggests commitment and consistency, and it motivates those who follow to not limit their relationship with God to sporadic moments. Discovering gifts through dreams. It may happen that God reveals a gift to you in a dream that you did not know you had. It could be something artistic, teaching, leadership, emotional healing, or any ability he wants to develop in you. Upon waking, you feel compelled to exercise this skill, to seek opportunities to practice it. This can change directions. Maybe you never thought about leading a group, but after the dream, you realize there's a calling. Do not repress this awakening. God does not waste potential. If he showed it to you, it is because he wants you to use this gift to spread blessings. Comment: I discover and use the gifts that God reveals to me in dreams. This action demonstrates readiness, and each reader can be encouraged to explore abilities they never imagined possessing. The depth of divine love. In the end, all of this revolves around one truth. God loves you and desires to have a close relationship. He is not limited to rituals, institutions, or agendas. He goes beyond, finding ways to speak to your heart, whether in the silence of the night or in the scenes that emerge when you're unconscious. This love is real and tangible. When you understand this, you realize that dreams are just more proof that he does not abandon you. He intervenes, guides, comforts, confronts, transforms. His love reaches where you are, even in the deepest corners of your subconscious. and this love invites you to respond, to take a step towards him. Right. I recognize God's love manifested in every dream he sends me. This final comment is a powerful affirmation of surrender and awareness. And it closes this cycle with a declaration of faith and gratitude that envelops each reader in a transformative atmosphere. Final encouragement and call to action. If you've come this far, you realize that dreams are not an empty or unimportant space. There is so much to be explored, so many possible messages, so many opportunities for growth and connection with God. Do not ignore what he may be speaking in the silence of the night. Do not let these revelations go unnoticed. Share this video, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. It may seem like just a ritual, but it is a way to keep the flame of this message alive. And above all, comment on your statements of faith. Write something like, "I receive these signs from God. I believe that dreams can be a bridge to the Creator. I open my heart to everything he wants to say." Each sentence, each word, each comment builds a support network where each person is reminded that they are not alone. Your comments could be the spark that rekindles someone else's faith. And this genuine interaction reinforces the idea that we are all in search of something that transcends. Do not wait to have all the details to act. Sometimes it's enough to believe that God speaks and be willing to listen. If you allow it, your dreams will become a source of precious revelations. They can bring healing, direction, necessary confrontations, warnings, confirmations, and a love so deep that there are no human words to explain it. Be ready. At any moment, he may whisper something crucial in your heart while you sleep. Be careful upon waking. Write down what you remember and, most importantly, pray. Ask what his will is for that day, for that situation. Let each experience bring you closer to the Creator, and keep commenting on statements of faith, because this simple act strengthens you and creates bonds with everyone who also needs divine direction. You are not alone. Your next dream may be the answer you have long awaited. Are you ready to listen? Comment now, declare your faith, and participate in this chain of hearts thirsty for the voice of heaven. God speaks, even in your dreams.